thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. Mr. De Castillo, I am extremely happy to be here. Of course, Airbus, let's say, could talk a lot about Industry 4.0. Digitalization is a big topic at Airbus, but let's say this is not my topic of today. Although, let's say, carbon emissions and reducing them is also top for Airbus. My topic today is the, let's say, essential role of monitoring all those emissions and looking at the climate and the essential role that satellites can play in that. And let's say I'd like to get, let's say, your understanding for that. We have said, the politicians have said globally, and I think this is an enormously important step forward, environmental targets. They set targets for that, and it's, let's say, at the basis of creating a sustainable, let's say, Earth as our living planet. This is obvious, and I really would like to thank all the, let's say, international politicians exactly for that. But let's say, as we all know, only what gets measured gets done. It's a global problem, and let's assume that all the companies here, SAP, British Telecom, we would all become what I would say world champions. Then that may not be good enough, because globally the topic needs to be tackled, and that's where, of course, the monitoring of how we're doing globally is key. Satellites by now, let's say, are recognized as the undisputed diagnostic tool for that. We detect climate and environmental change on a global scale. We do that in long-term measurements, and let's say, as we know, we're talking about long-term effects. We're talking about the increase of the temperature by a few tenths of a degree, and we need to be extremely accurate in that over time. And the important thing is there are so many interactions on the globe that we need to first understand to make sure that we then tackle really the climate change challenge. That first we need to much better understand all those interactions to make that happen. And again, that's where this global modeling becomes crucial. More than 50%, more than half of the essential climate variables, as they have been defined by the United Nations, are measured from space today. So I think that's really very important to recognize that most of the parameters we are measuring already today from space. And of course, let's say the biggest challenge to come today, and that's what we're working on, and let's say building first prototype satellites, is the measurement of methane and the carbon dioxide, which of course, again, let's say we haven't done yet in the past, and we need to, let's say, develop the instruments to be able to do that in order to, let's say, understand where the quantities come from, where are they generated, so also the local aspect, the geolocalization, is it more in, I don't know, Germany, Belgium or France? We need to understand where that's coming from and where the sources of all those, let's say, emissions are. Of course, not everything is done by from space, for sure not, and again, many things were mentioned. Energy consumption is also measured in different ways, but at the end of the day, only satellites can provide us with a global long-term coverage at reasonable cost. I think also the cost aspect, of course, is an important element in that. Today, and we can be really, really proud of that, Europe is at the front end in measuring this. Whether it's the European Space Agency with its Earth Explorer program, where it, let's say, every year tries to find new instruments, develop new instruments to measure new topics like carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide or methane. Whether it's the European Commission, and again, a very strong mention there with the Copernicus program, which is really the first, what I would call, operational long-term program to measure to globally monitor, let's say, our environment. And maybe you've heard yesterday we launched another Sentinel satellite, and the Sentinel satellites are the space segment belonging to the Copernicus program. Or whether it's EUMETSAT, again, EUMETSAT, that we all know from the weather prediction, but of course, let's say long-term climate monitoring is one of the major elements that EUMETSAT is taking care of. Of course, European industry, and that's, let's say we can be very proud of that, is able to build, has the capacity and capabilities to do that. Airbus has been involved in 27 satellites that are, let's say, doing the monitoring, let's say day by day. We have 200 years of in-orbit experience there. And another 18 are being developed at the moment and are being built, again, to improve this scale. On top of that, let's say there is private initiatives, there's private satellite systems that support all that. Let's say, for example, our spot satellites support the mapping of deforestation and things like that. And also, of course, we support all the Copernicus with additional data. And we come to the conclusion, what will all this bring? It's a global understanding of our overall environment. It's talking about the crucial factors that, let's say, lead to a sustainment of our Earth. Where are the sources of pollution coming from? The quantities, and also the, let's say, localization of this. Because again, it's a global problem. And for let's say, certainly also whether the political decisions we are taking are the right ones to, let's say, support improvement measures. And here I would like to quote two examples, which I think are very speaking. The CFC emissions, as you know, were abandoned. All the gases that we used in the sprays were abandoned to recover the ozone hole. And we have been able to prove in the last years that, again, through the satellite measurements, that the long-term development of the ozone hole is going in the right direction. It is, let's say, shrinking over time. Another element, you know that, of course, in the Cancun conference, we have agreed that let's say, the rainforest countries, if they would, let's say, deforestate less their forests, would help a lot to sustain the climate in the world. Again, the satellites are using, let's say, are monitoring day by day those elements, also in order that we are able to, let's say, provide those countries that support us with, let's say, agreed compensation. So my conclusion is, let's say, very simple. Setting the targets is a very, very necessary step. All the discussions we just had from all the contributors, working on improvements using ICT, and again, ICT is very close to my heart. Communications, intelligence is what I'm, let's say, heading day to day, and of course, information and intelligence is the same. So working on that is very, very crucial. But then, of course, we do have to measure them. We do have to see whether everybody is, let's say, contributing in the right direction. And that's where, again, those satellite systems, let's say, can help. And the Copernicus initiative is one of the best the European Commission has in this context to sustain our environment. And let's say, I definitely think that the extension of this program to include the carbon emissions will be a very, very important and strong step forward. Thank you very much.